Blog Talk Radio. Bienvenidos a WEXP 88.3, donde lo hacemos mejor. Soy Evelyn Bernal y este es mi programa Entre Mujeres.
Good afternoon and happy Thursday. This is your host of Entre Mujeres, Evelyn Bernal, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Yesterday, as I was in class, I was pondering on my professor's lecture. He was saying that for the most part, change is always possible, and that really got my wheels turning because a lot of emotional health depends on the changes that we are willing to make, especially the changes that we are willing to make around our behavior. So I thought, change is always a iffy topic because we're used to doing the same things. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that during our show tomorrow, and I think you'll find this very interesting. I do want to invite you to drop by, say hi, show a little love, and you can do that by going to my Facebook page and Instagram, Evelyn Bernal or Evelyn Bernal, Life Coach on Instagram and Facebook. And any questions you have, any shout-outs you want me to give during the show, I will gladly attend to your comments. So as I was saying, not to deviate from the topic, we were talking about change, and then I was thinking, such a small, simple word, not even difficult to pronounce yet, translates so difficulty into real life. How come change is so difficult for us? What makes it so challenging? And why is there times when we prefer to continue with a behavior that possibly does not work for us? However, we want to continue in that behavior. So let's talk about that today. And so as I remember, as I was looking through, kind of doing some soul searching, thinking about the show, I can think of various individuals, and sometimes including myself, where I think that, to me, it was very clear that a change needed to happen in order for them to become unstuck and move forward with their life, yet for some reason, sad to say, the change didn't always occur. And I think that it is safe to say that they are still doing the same thing. Have you met anybody like that, where their behavior does not work for them and yet they find themselves doing the same thing? Or is there areas of our life where, like women, we're always complaining about diets, and yet we think that we're going to get thin by osmosis, and we complain, like me, every time I eat, I'm like, oh, I feel so fat, or I feel so heavy, I feel so bloated, but yet I don't change my behavior, or I didn't change my behavior in the past. It's kind of the same thing, different, because I guess it is kind of related to emotional health. And so that's what I'm talking about. Does that apply to you? Can you identify with that, or do you know anybody who is still stuck with their old behavior? Well, let's talk about that. Why is change so difficult for the majority of us? What does it mean to make a change? And so before getting into that, I want you to do a little soul searching, a little self-inventory, and tell me, right now as it stands, obviously, like, trying to think about these things sometimes is abstract and kind of difficult, but to the best of your ability, think about one thing that you have been wanting to change, whatever that might be. And if you think about it, I want you to think, how successful have I been in changing this about myself, or creating this change around me? How successful? How many times have I tried? And how has that worked out for me? And the reason I want you to think about that is, it gives us a place to start with. What changes have you been wanting to make? And how has it worked for you? And if it hasn't worked for you, what keeps you stuck in that same cycle, doing the same thing, whatever that might be? As a helper, I will tell you that a lot of individuals, or I think I want to say human nature. I don't know if it's a generalization, but in my experience has been that a lot of individuals, we are resistant to change. Especially, how many times have you been told, oh, maybe you should go talk to someone, or maybe you should run that by someone and see what they say. And then, of course, we immediately react defensively and say, I don't need to talk to someone. I have a problem. This is not a problem for me. And so somehow change isn't facilitated because we always get, we tend to get defensive when somebody brings up one of the behaviors that we need to change. And so, number one, first point in this topic is, in order to make a change of a behavior, we have to acknowledge it and we have to accept it. And so, acknowledging that the behavior needs to change means that I need to accept that this behavior might not be healthy for me, that this relationship might not be optimal or ideal for me, that the decisions that I've made have affected others, and in my opinion, this is the first reason why we become resistant to change, because first we have to accept that we need to start doing things differently. And while we talk about it so lightly, it's common sense. It's like, yeah, accept it, make a change, but it's not that simple, because think about what comes with accepting something. So if I accept a behavior of mine and I say, okay, I need to make this change. I have engaged in this type of behavior. I have engaged in this type of situation. Well, if I accept it, then that means that I become responsible. I make myself accountable. And accountability isn't so comfortable, because if I become accountable, then I have to deal with the feelings that come from understanding that my choices and the way that I am affected other people. Now, if you are a mom, just think of this. How many times do us moms get on high horses because we believe that this is because I am right and I do the best I can? And so when we are confronted with having issues with our kids, unfortunately, the majority of the times, the first ones that have to make the change is us moms. And how difficult is that for you ladies? How difficult? I am a mom, and I will tell you that one of the most difficult things that I have had to do is accept that I didn't always do right by my kids, that I made mistakes, in the moment, thinking that was the best thing to do. And maybe those mistakes hurt my kids, even though it wasn't intentional, and even though it wasn't in bad faith, even though I did that at that time thinking that it was a good choice, following what I felt and what I believed and what I knew at that time. And then those behaviors, those choices come back somehow, and they come back to us, because then our kids are having issues because of our behavior. And so how many parents have I heard, including myself, get defensive, saying, oh, you need to get over it. He needs to get over it. It's done. It's gone. Because as a parent, as a mother, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree, it is difficult to accept that I did not make the best choice. And so when I accept that, I acknowledge that I hurt my children in some way with my choices, that I hurt my loved ones. And so naturally, with acceptance and acknowledgement comes accountability, and then comes guilt. And that is one of the major reasons that a lot of individuals run from accountability, because we are avoiding the truth, and we are avoiding accepting that it was our doing, and we are avoiding the guilt. And in my mind, that's a pretty darn good reason not to make a change, because with change comes accountability, comes acceptance, comes guilt. But also, once you get to that point, it's very uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable to make a change, especially when you've been used to doing the same thing all the time, the same way, because that is how we were taught. And, I understand why a lot of individuals do not want to see a counselor, even though, it's been my profession for the past 16 years. I understand because I have been on the other side of that seat, talking to a professional about, any guidance that I might need. And you have to bare your soul sometimes. You have to really be honest. And you know that, of course you can hide during the counseling session and you can BS the counselor, but of course that's not going to allow you to make any progress. But you understand that if there is a person that's going to look through your BS, it's the counselor. And so we put ourselves, even if you don't seek help from someone, you put yourself in a vulnerable position because those feelings of making a change are uncomfortable. And a lot of us, we say, no, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. I'm not going to open a Pandora's box. And, we use the old adage, if it's not broken, don't fix it. All these things that we put in our minds to avoid making a change that, is going to put you in a vulnerable position for a while. However, this might be the change that improves your quality of life at home. This might be the change that helps you to be emotionally stable. This might be the change that allows you to pursue your goals. Who knows? This might be the change that allows us to finally, lose those extra pounds and look and feel better about ourselves, if that's what you're looking for. However, they say the only way through is through. This is the case with change. In order to make a lasting change in our life, we have to be able to say, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to start this journey, even though that journey is going to take us to a very uncomfortable place. Another reason why individuals refuse to make a change is because things usually get worse before they get better. And then it surprises me, how little we know about the helping professions, because we have all these assumptions in our head of what it is like to go talk to someone, your life coach, your counselor, your mentor, etc. We feel like if we go talk to someone, that makes us weak, because some cultures are like that. Like me, I am a Mexican-American female. I grew up with, for the most part, a traditional family. And I will tell you that in my family, you did not talk about the problems. In fact, there's a saying, and I'm sure I'm going to slaughter it because I'm going to translate it from Spanish to English, but they said, you wash your dirty clothes at home. I don't know if there's an American version of this, but basically what it's saying, and the cultural norm for us, was you don't go and talk to a stranger about your problems. Nobody needs to know. You fix it right here. And so that prevents us from reaching out to someone who might possibly be able to offer a new perspective. And that is what a helper might do for you. That's what your mentor, your pastor, anybody in your religious leader, your counselor, I don't know if I said that already, that's what they might be able to do for you, is assist you in developing a new perspective, because nobody can change you. So we go in and we have this assumption that, this person is going to change me, and we are very disappointed to see that when we go see our counselor or our helper, we are the exact same person that went into that office or into that building. Well, yeah, because honestly, The other reason why individuals do not make a change is because, like I said, we go through that uncomfortableness, and the other is we have to actually start changing our behaviors. And so why would an individual want to change their behaviors? Well, think about it. The truth is that a lot of maladaptive behaviors work for us. Example, women. Those of us that have that dramatic flair and we get worked up over everything and we become loud and dramatic and raise our voice. Just think of how many women refuse to change because the truth is that when we act like that, we are getting something from our behavior, whether it be attention, whether it be that we get our way, whether it be that we get to take out that spite that we have on somebody, that negative energy, we get to take it out on somebody else. But that behavior is working for you at some level. Is it a healthy way of getting reinforcement? No, absolutely not. It's not, because it's at others' expense, and it's at your own expense as well. However, individuals refuse to make change because their behavior is meeting a need. Maladaptive behaviors meet a need. And so just one of the many reasons, are we just going to focus on why people don't change? Well, we might, because what we're going to do is we're going to demystify change, because this way we're going to understand the rationale behind us continuing in the same cycle. But in the end of our program, I will also give you an important 2 steps you can do. And if you persist in doing those, I assure you, you will make a lasting change. However, we're going to leave that to the end of the show. I just want to do a little interlude and say thank you for listening. You are listening to Evelyn Bernal, and this is your program, Entre Mujeres. This is my second show in English, and I'm very happy that you're with me. Send me a shout-out. I am on Facebook and Instagram, Evelyn Bernal Life Coach. I want to hear from you. I seriously do. I just feel like there's something so wonderful and powerful about women getting together. The great thing about being on radio is that I actually have a voice, and I can be a voice for others. So believe me, girl, I want to hear from you, okay? Send me some love when you hear my show. And so continuing on this topic, change puts us in a vulnerable position. And then as I was saying, change, when you start to engage in some change, just know that things are going to get worse before they get better. What? Then why would I want to make a change? Well, because you keep eye on the prize. Look, we are so used to doing things in a manner that doesn't work. And then we don't get what we want. We never achieve what it is that we're wanting in that relationship. We engage in the same behavior, and then when it doesn't work, we are surprised. We are disappointed because we're thinking, oh, maybe this time. I thought this time it was going to be better. I thought I was going to have a different result. However, you not have a different result if you continue to do things the same way. So when I tell you that it is very worth it for you to endure that worst part of changing, it is absolutely honest. Like, I assure you that if you are able to get through that little hump of trying to get used to doing things different, I assure you, you will feel better emotionally. You will be more responsible for your actions, and also you will make others more responsible for their actions towards you. At the end of the day, look how what's the word? It escapes me in English. What's the word? How confusing, okay? How curious what we do, how mind-boggling. When we are feeling uncomfortable, we are wanting the other person to make a change because we're saying, oh, stop. Your behavior makes me feel bad. Your behavior makes me angry. And so we focus externally. And we think, okay, well, only, if my kids only behave better, and if my spouse only behaved better, and if my boss wasn't such a an annoying person, a stressful person when I go to work, then everything would be better. And so we focus on wanting to change things that are outside of ourselves, that are external, that we have no control over. And so it's this cycle of continuously complaining because we try to focus on external things that are out of our control, but we lack the insight and the ability to say, you know what, if it doesn't change, I'm going to change. I'm going to change. I'm going to change even if it means going through a period where I'm uncomfortable, where I feel a little lost, where things are going to get worse for me, but I will begin in this journey, in this process of making a change. I will tell you that what I like about age, about getting a little older, is the ability to think things more clearly and a little more maturely, because I think that being a little more mature has helped me to make necessary changes that I believe are healthy for me, are healthy for my kids, but I still have some ways to go. But I will tell you this, it doesn't matter if this is going to be your baby step. As long as you take a little baby step in that direction, you are a baby step closer than you were if we continue to engage in the same type of behavior. I don't remember if I said this at the beginning of the show, but this is obviously the majority of the classes that I take are directed towards assisting others in creating change in their life. And I will tell you, don't leave it to somebody else. Don't expect somebody else to change your internal state, your emotional state. That is your responsibility. We have to be accountable for our own change. And if something isn't working for you, I tell you what, focusing on what others need to do to change is not going to help you to get out of that situation. It's not going to make that situation better. But as soon as you start focusing and saying, you know, what part of this environment is not healthy for me? What kind of things do I accept in my life that make me, that hurt my emotions, that hurt my thoughts, that make me feel in this manner? What part of it, what part of this environment? And then when you know, then you decide, okay, this is the reaction that I've always had towards this. What am I going to do different? Because obviously what I've done does not work. So one of the things that my professor was saying last night, and he's a brilliant man, very level-headed, very realistic. I have heard many times, obviously, especially about men, because I am a woman. I'm a heterosexual woman, so you know how women are. We get together and, you know, men talk about football and cars and everything fun, and then women, we get together, we talk about our man and we talk about our kids. And so I have heard a mix of conversation with my girls. I have heard them say about other individuals like, oh, no, like, yeah, he's old. He's never going to change. And, you know, I believe that for a while. I believe that there comes a certain point where individuals are incapable of change. But what their research on behavior actually shows is that environment is very important and conducive and inducive of change. What that tells me is that maybe your environment is toxic, and so maybe the baby step towards making a change in your life is somehow changing your environment, somehow maybe connecting to other types of environments, somehow looking for a shelter within your environment that is hurting you emotionally. And the other thing that the research points out about change is that anybody, obviously, anybody that is capable and is able of thinking correctly at any age can always make a change. So he said, the idea that, oh, they're very old, they're never going to change, you know how they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Well, that's not based on the research, because individuals are very much capable of change if, and there's the catch, if they choose to do so. And so like I told you, I promised you 2 little steps to assist you in making a change. So number 1, you have to make sure that what you want to change is reasonable, okay? Just one example. I don't want to focus on weight, superficial. Maybe, as long as you're happy with how you look and how you are. It's just one tangible, quick example, okay? Don't think that I'm like being all shallow here and pressuring anybody into looking different. So I can't say, okay, well, my goal, the change I want to make is I want to lose 20 pounds a week or in 2 weeks. It's not realistic. We set goals for ourselves that are very up there, that, we look at the end product. And the one thing that you have to understand if you're making a change is, number one, it has to be reasonable. Okay, my goal is to lose 20 pounds maybe in 6 months. My goal for this week is going to be I'm going to walk 15 minutes twice a week. Goals have to be reasonable, number one. And number two, any behavior change can be lasting if you start taking baby steps. Baby steps and consistent, realistic goals will get you the change that you want, I assure you. Obviously, there's other things involved. We start working with ourselves, with our perception, but you know what? Maybe we can have that conversation at another time. I do want to thank you for listening to me. I am blessed to be able to voice, this knowledge that I am able to expose myself on a daily basis because of my profession. I love doing this, and I appreciate you listening to this, your show, Entre Mujeres. Remember, next week, next Thursday, same time, I want to share with you another topic regarding emotional health. Again, give me a shout out. Visit me on Facebook and Instagram, Evelyn Bernal, Life Coach. I also want to do a little marketing here. We just launched our new product, our leather imports, handcrafted by Mexican artisans, and I want to invite you to check out our collection on El Chipilón y La Llorona, Mexican name. You will probably not remember it, but if you can't remember, go to my Facebook page, Evelyn Tovar Life Coach, and you can check out. I have a link there. Check out our products. You are supporting a woman-owned business, and I want to thank you today. And I just want to leave you with this: change is very possible. Change is attainable. We just have to take one baby step in the right direction. This is Evelyn Bernal. Thank you for tuning in to my show, and I'll see you next week.